the resource conservation. Why is everything being so slow? Okay, there we go. So I'm gonna briefly talk about the area that I was placed, but Sabrina, Dunbar, and Kaylee also gave really good backgrounds on this area, so I won't belabor this too much. But Shasta County, wildfire is definitely one of the biggest threats out here, especially the forested land. And there's a lot of trauma associated with wildfire out here, especially with like the car fire and the campfire that most recently happened. As you can see on this map that I took from one of our story maps, it just shows like the amount of fires that have happened in the past 3 decades, and also the amount of projects that are trying to combat the frequency of wildfire with both proposed and completed field break projects. But yeah, definitely wildfire is definitely a large risk here. But also like, so Shasta Lake, as Dunbar was also talking about, is the water levels are sort of a record low. So that is also a problem for this area and is of concern to the populace. Where we're actually placed, where I live is Reading, and then I actually work in Anderson. But a funny story is that I am actually from the East Coast, so I really had not been to California before I moved out here. And so I kind of chose Reading based on like the forestry projects, because that's what I'm passionate about, but also because it's a similar latitude to where I lived. So I just assumed it would have a similar climate to upstate New York. And Reading is probably the most opposite place to where I live that I could have picked, with it being the sunniest, the second sunniest city in the US. And also just being like over 100 a lot in the summer, whereas I'm used to a lot of clouds and rain and not 100-degree heat. So I definitely think maybe a sunscreen stipend would be a good investment for the GrizzlyCorps cohort that comes up to this area next time. One of the other unique things that I did want to bring up to just East Coast versus like California and stuff was that there's been a lot of land acknowledgments. So we're actually on Win2. I've been Shasta County is like a lot of Win2 ancestral lands and stuff too, but it's been really cool to learn about traditional ecological knowledge, or TEK, since I've been here, and it's definitely more emphasized than it is on the East Coast and stuff, where I think colonialism has been like a little bit more longer seated there. And so it's just been really great learning about ancestral lands and tribal knowledge. And I hope to like kind of take that lesson and appreciation with me as even if I move from California. But working with the Resource Conservation District, it's uniquely kind of proposition because it is a special district. So it's not technically government, which is always good for, I think, this area that's a little bit hesitant to work with government agencies and sees government plates and kind of has a little bit of fear and skepticism associated with that. So the Resource Conservation District is kind of a great mediator between governmental agencies and also like the county and small landowners. So I think this was a cool site to be put with. One of the things I think anyone who works with an RCD is that the goals and projects are constantly changing because it's based on whatever grant funding there is. And so my original projects that I had signed on for immediately changed, like within a couple of months of me joining. But I eventually kind of settled upon these Caltrans mitigation projects, as well as the California Wildfire Mitigation Program, or the Whitmore Home Hardening Program, as it's known kind of locally. So these are both really cool projects that I was excited to work on. The Caltrans mitigation projects are basically Caltrans builds a road or infrastructure, and they have to compensate by rebuilding like twice the amount of habitat they destroyed while building whatever they needed to do for their contract. And then the California Wildfire Mitigation Program, a super cool pilot program, which was definitely a new thing for me because coming from an academia background, I would share my knowledge with other scientists. So just talking to landowners about new fire science was definitely a new learning experience for me, and I'm really grateful for that project too. But just quickly going over some of the projects. So one of my like pet favorite projects, just because it's so small, like in size and adorable, is just the Willow Creek Caltrans mitigation project. So it's just off the side of 299. Yeah, off the side of 299, as shown in this kind of this aerial picture. But it's basically car fire destroyed a lot of road, and so the road had to be rebuilt, and Caltrans had to have a mitigation site of around an acre with around 50 plants to compensate for that road construction. But it was really cool because I kind of got to see this project from start to not end, but I've been doing monitoring and stuff there as we speak. But basically it was just a pile of rocks with a lot of blackberry on it. And so we were able to kind of weed and add some soil supplements and stuff and be able to plant like 50 plants. So mostly willows, deer brush, coyote brush, and redbuds along the side of the road with these grow boxes, which are really cool. Kind of a newer thing that Caltrans is trying, to where it holds 5 gallons of water and has like a candle wick at the bottom. So it'll water the plant as needed, and you don't need to have an extensive irrigation system, which is super nice, especially for a project you're not supposed to check too often. And so I've been monitoring both the water level of the grow boxes, which I refill with a bucket, but also just recording what I see and photo monitoring for weeds and other things. But I also saw like really cute banana slugs, which I think is a really fun thing that I got to see at one of the sites. The other project that was definitely like a little bit more out of my wheelhouse was the California Wildfire Mitigation Project, or the Home Hardening Project in Whitmore. So a lot of areas in California were kind of ranked in vulnerability to wildfire, and Whitmore, which is east of Redding, was ranked really highly just because of the amount of forested area and like the amount of time it has not been burned in a very long time. So this was a pilot project targeting disadvantaged folks, so either like disabilities or low income level, to try and help them get work, either defensible space and home hardening done for their home. And the goal of this project was to try and assess like 25 homes. So I was actually one of the home assessors that would go to homes, to homeowners who were interested, and we would assess first defensible space, because if you don't have defensible space and you have a hardened home, like it is still likely your home will burn down if you still have a lot of flammable fuels around the home. But basically we do defensible space first, look at that. And then if the home was considered like had good defensible space, we'd also still look at the home and just look at vents, like gasketing around garages, and vent size around chimneys and other really vulnerable places that embers and stuff and other fire science labs have shown can be really vulnerable to a home, which is super cool. So I actually, like when I was making this presentation, I realized that I didn't ask for permission to use anyone's photos of their homes. So I just kind of took pictures of their dogs, which everyone was super cool with. This is actually one of my favorite dogs, Henry. He was so cute. And I had a lot of dogs follow me a lot on my home assessments, which was one of my favorite parts. But yeah, that was definitely interacting with homeowners. That was one of my favorite parts of coming out here. Another one of my favorite parts was, so GrizzlyCorps allows for training hours. So you're able to like kind of develop these new skills and stuff. So I was able to get my type 2 firefighter certification, which was like one of the most like pivotal moments. Like while I was out here, I'm so happy. Like I have started a campfire once or twice on the East Coast and stuff, and I've heard of Smokey, but like before I came out here, I like really did not know how to use like a flamethrower or like a propane torch. So it was really amazing to learn from the Klamath treks, which also includes the Yurok and Hoopa tribes and stuff. That was really incredible to be able to help them burn these really old piles on their land and just learn from them and with them about their land, and have to hike up really steep slopes to help burn these areas. Yeah, but that's us doing our pack test and also the deploy shelter test. And that's me with like my flamethrower, I think like the 3rd or 2nd day that we started training. It was incredible. So grateful for that experience. Just quick successes and challenges. So being from the East Coast and coming to California was just kind of an incredible change in and of itself. So learning about California fire ecology and like all the native plants and stuff, like I didn't realize 1/3 of California's plants are endemic. Like that's the amount of diversity here is just so incredible. And a lot of my coworkers helped me identify native plants and other things that were just like so unique to California, and like and also learning about TEK in the area was just such an incredible experience here. And I think I do love field work, and I loved helping plant and do a lot of other things, but being able to talk to the public about science, which is something I didn't get to do much in academia before I took on GrizzlyCorps, was like really valuable experience to me, and just like talking to landowners about climate change and understanding that not everyone is kind of like against it. Like everyone knows stuff is changing. Maybe they just use different terminology and stuff, or there's definitely different acceptance of certain concepts, but everyone knows that wildfires are dangerous and they still want to protect their homes and their neighbors. And so just understanding that everyone kind of has a similar goal, even if it takes a little bit to get to the same the same goal. Challenges were definitely like doing this stuff in a pandemic in an area that maybe isn't technologically like coherent and stuff. So just making sure that like having stuff on Zoom isn't necessarily available for everyone in like low income communities or older populations, where maybe just me sitting on a landline and talking them through how to reset their password might be like, of their email might be the most like effective way to do some of the things that we had to get done. And then also drought, because a lot of the mitigation projects for Caltrans that had to be done, so a lot of plantings and things had have success criteria. So if a lot of plants die from the drought, like it's very stressful. So it's either you got to spend money on irrigation, or you just have to try and yeah, you have to try and like kind of baby the plants and try and pick a better better climate adapted plant list. So my reflections, honestly, I'm still really reflecting right now because I haven't quite finished yet, but I think just watching all the wildfires and stuff happen, and watch as like PBA, like prescribed burn associations form and more insurance for prescribed burns and stuff increase, I think money needs to be, projects need to be geared towards prevention and not mitigation after wildfire. So we need to start being more proactive so people like can feel involved in their community and also don't have to feel the effects of wildfire in their community. I think that's super important. One other thing I want to reflect on was I really, I've done like little bits of volunteering that like school kind of made me do to like told me would be like get me into a good school and stuff. And so having GrizzlyCorps kind of encourage volunteering was like really important to my career development and stuff. And just being able to, it was another way to interact with the community with like potlucks and stuff after like doing trail work with the Trinity Trail Alliance or the Reading Trail Alliance, and doing stuff with the Trinity River cleanup and the Chico TEK. And so it just allowed me to travel, but also like making it feel like I was helping out in the community, which is super important. This is actually me I was actually getting my junior ranger badge and taking the vow, but not quite volunteering, but still relevant. And so thank you everyone for attending my talk. I'm so grateful for the GrizzlyCorps cohort, which is like another reason I think a lot of you guys have given me hope. And like a lot of academia is really depressing, and the reason why I'm able to study a lot of stuff is because it's the results are dismal and everything's trying to be saved before at the brink of its extinction. And so talking to everyone about climate change resiliency and like hopeful things has been like really, really helpful for me and my mental health. So I'm super grateful for the cohort and being able to explore Northern California, and also being able to get a bunch of junior ranger badges. And also my ice cream sandwich addiction was fueled here as well. And thank you so, so much to my housemates for helping me survive like hot, hot days and just watching me sweat on the carpet and cry, like surviving Reading. But yeah, thank you guys all so much. And also thank you to the Western Shasta RCD and all the expertise and everything you guys have shared with me. It's been so valuable and important.